We're going to Tampa next. The Buccaneers schedule having been released, and as you can see it, August 13th through 17th. Right off the top in the preseason there, they're going to get the Pittsburgh Steelers, but then we're talking about week 1, and it is a tough game in a tough building to play against the New Orleans Saints. That's where Tom Brady is going to get his first test as the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if you look at the schedule, from a strength of schedule standpoint, it's middle of the road, but they're playing just one road game against a team that had a winning record last season. That would be their division foe, New Orleans, coming in week 1. So from then on, the road schedule gets a little bit easier for Tom and company, but that division is going to prove to be tough for all comers. All right, Jonathan, and looking at this schedule right here, what do you make of it? Obviously a marquee game right off the bat, September 13th in New Orleans, a true test in the division for Tom and company.
Yeah, that one's going to be tough, especially in week 1 for a Tampa Bay Bucs team. And again, we really have to relate this stuff to the COVID world, right? Where right now Tom Brady has not been able to throw to his wide receivers, or so we believe, right? Unless he's breaking some rules out in parks, and that doesn't sound like Tom Brady. And so because of the consistency and the continuity that the New Orleans Saints are keeping for this season, I have to take the Saints certainly in that game. Now, you look at the first 5 games there, and I can see 4-1. The one thing that I'm going to tell you about, though, is that game out in Denver. So the Broncos get 2 very difficult opponents at home starting out. They get the Titans, and then they get the Buccaneers. The Broncos just are so good at home, but especially in September, in large part because of course, the altitude. Number 2, the higher temperatures in September, and then the preparation that guys are not necessarily conditioned, no matter the temperature. They aren't conditioned as well early in the season. So the Broncos, I believe, are 55-11-2 in their franchise history at home in the first 2 weeks of the season. And so it's interesting to me that Tom Brady has to go out there in September, but I still think that's a W for them. And looking at the early part of the schedule, a loss against the Saints, they get them later. That one's a pick 'em for me, but I have them at 4-1 through the first 5 weeks of the season.
There's one thing that jumps off the page to me when I look at the Bucs schedule. Danny, it looks like they play 4 primetime games in a 5-week stretch. If you look at it, I don't know if I've ever seen that before. They're going to play October 25th in the 8:20 game. That's Sunday night. The next week they're playing on Monday night. The next week they're playing on Sunday night. Then they have the one Fox game on November 15th. And then they play again on the Monday night game against the Rams. I mean, that's a wild schedule. I don't know if I've ever seen 4 primetime games in a 5-week stretch. Is that an advantage or a disadvantage?
You know, EK, I always think, players love to play in prime time. You want to be that team. If you're a fan, you probably, or a player for that matter, you probably wish they were spread out a little bit more. I mean, there might be some Tom Brady fatigue, Bucs fatigue, if they're every single time 4 out of 5 weeks in prime time. I don't know if there's any significant advantage to it. Maybe for the Bucs it is, because you start to get into a rhythm. That's the one thing that's always a little bit challenging, is if you're waiting all day for the nighttime game and it's a one-off, then it kind of throws you off your schedule a little bit. NFL players are creatures of habit, so if you do it that frequently, maybe there's a little bit of an advantage that you get used to playing at that time when your opponents maybe don't. But I guess the one thing I'm just surprised about is the NFL didn't spread it out a little bit. Give the Bucs some love across the schedule instead of wedging them in that period. But I'm with JJ. I think the schedule is very manageable. I would say to keep an eye on those the later portion of the season against the Falcons. Remember, the Falcons had that late push this season when they got much better. I think the Falcons are a team that can present some challenges for both the Saints and the Bucs in the division. Everybody's talking about the Saints and Bucs, and we should be, but the Falcons are going to be really good on offense. We know that. Defensively, I think they'll be better, and I think they could play the role of spoiler within that division.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.